Help me hit 7,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and share your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you. I never imagined that a divorce could feel like freedom. Not at first, anyway. I thought the day after ending 15 years of my marriage would be quiet, maybe even lonely. Instead, it felt like the first deep breath I'd taken in years. My name is Ethan, 43, and for as long as I could remember, I had done everything by the book. Paid the bills, stayed loyal, been the dependable husband. And yet, despite all my efforts, Sarah, my ex-wife, never seemed satisfied. The divorce was final yesterday. Courtroom formalities, lawyers' signatures, the hollow ceremony of separating lives we had built together. I left the courthouse with a strange mix of relief and disbelief. Driving home, I kept thinking about how years of compromise, quiet frustration, and unnoticed effort had vanished in a stack of legal documents. Part of me expected to feel empty, lost, but instead, a grin crept across my face. When I arrived at my apartment, the phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. I didn't even flinch. The words were short, almost acidic. I can't believe you're acting so happy. Why are you so cheerful after everything? I chuckled softly, tapped out a reply, and put my phone down. Because I finally can be myself again. And that was the truth. For the first time in years, I didn't have to navigate her moods or tiptoe around complaints. I could breathe, live, and, dare I admit it, even feel excited for the future. I poured myself a cup of coffee and sat by the window, watching the city wake up. The early morning sunlight hit the pavement at the perfect angle, and I realized how long it had been since I'd felt this simple joy. My friends had warned me about the emotional roller coaster of divorce, about lingering resentment, anger, and regret. But here I was oddly calm, almost giddy in a subtle, internal way. A freedom I didn't know I'd been craving had finally arrived. The first person I called was my best friend, Jake. He'd been my partner in crime through all the long nights of marital frustration, the silent dinners, the constant feeling of being invisible. Jake, I said, laughter in my voice. I think I've discovered something amazing. Divorce isn't the end. It's the beginning. He laughed. Ethan, you sound like a man who just won the lottery, not someone who got divorced. I know, I said, grinning, but it's true. The last 15 years, I loved her, respected her, and gave everything I had. And now it's mine. As I walked down the street later that afternoon, I ran into Claire, a neighbor who had always been friendly but casual. She paused mid-step and raised an eyebrow. Ethan, you're smiling. After all that? I shrugged, feeling bold. I told you, Claire, I'm finally free. And more importantly, I get to live on my terms now. Her laugh was light, almost surprised. You make it sound easy. It isn't easy, I admitted, but it's necessary. And that's when it hit me. I could finally start thinking about what I wanted without Sarah's shadow looming over every decision. And yes, it included things I had never dared imagine before. Thoughts that once seemed audacious, even impossible. Thoughts that made me smirk as I imagined them aloud. If you've ever felt trapped in a relationship, comment below about that one thing you wish you could finally do. You might inspire someone going through the same. I spent the evening walking through memories. Our old apartment, the park where we first met, the little coffee shop where she used to complain that I didn't order her favorite latte correctly. Each place brought a pang of nostalgia but not sadness, more like acknowledgement. Life had moved, and now it was my turn. Later, my phone rang again. This time it was Mia, my sister-in-law. Yes, Sarah's sister. Our relationship had always been friendly, even warm, despite the tension between me and Sarah. Mia had texted innocently the night before, checking if I was settling okay. I smiled, realizing how differently I viewed her compared to Sarah. I could actually imagine spending time with someone without feeling judged, controlled, or diminished. And then, a thought that would have been unthinkable a week ago crossed my mind. A daring, audacious, borderline mischievous thought. What if Mia and I were more than just friends? I laughed quietly, shaking my head, felt reckless but liberating. The past was gone, the legal bindings severed. Why not explore a path I had only dared dream about? I texted her later that night. Dinner tomorrow? I promise no awkward family drama. Her reply came almost immediately. Only if you promise to bring that grin you had this morning. It's contagious. And just like that, I felt alive. Not vengeful, not spiteful, just exhilarated by the possibility of something real, something mutual, something that respected both our independence. Share this story with someone who needs a reminder that moving on can be empowering. It might give them the courage they've been waiting for. By midnight, the city lights reflected off my apartment windows, and I realized that this was more than just a single moment. It was a turning point, the first chapter of a life I had been too cautious to write. The funny thing? I didn't even have to imagine Sarah's reaction anymore. Her voice, her complaints, her criticisms, they had no power here. Only freedom. Only potential. The next morning, I woke up with a sense of anticipation I hadn't felt in years. No nagging thoughts, no subtle guilt, no dread of arguments that never really mattered but always weighed heavily. Just the sun streaming through the window and the quiet hum of the city below. I poured myself a second cup of coffee, thinking about Mia, and for the first time, I felt like the future was genuinely mine to shape. Later, as I walked past Sarah's favorite cafe, I noticed her standing there, arms crossed, glaring in my direction. Her hair was perfectly styled, her expression sharp, but it couldn't mask the shock in her eyes when she saw me smiling. I waved casually. "Ethan!" she yelled across the street, voice loud enough for the entire sidewalk to hear. "Why are you so happy? After everything we've been through, how can you act like this?" I paused, took a deep breath, and let the smile spread naturally. "Because," I said calmly, "I finally get to live my life the way I want. And no, you're not invited to this next chapter." That last part hit her in a way nothing else could. I watched her lips twitch, like she wanted to say something sharp, but no words came. It was the first time in 15 years that I had felt truly untouchable by her emotional grip. If you're enjoying Ethan's story so far, make sure to hit the subscribe button to follow his journey. Stories like this deserve to be shared. I spent the afternoon messaging Mia, planning a casual dinner. The simplicity of it amazed me. No tension, no underlying complaints, no hidden expectations. We laughed about old family stories, shared memories, and even teased each other about our mutual relief that Sarah was out of the picture. It was easy, effortless, and intoxicating in its normalcy. As the evening approached, I walked into the small bistro where we had agreed to meet. Mia was already there, her warm smile lighting up the dimly lit room. I felt a flutter in my chest, the kind that reminded me I was capable of feeling alive again. "Ethan," she said softly, "you look happy." "I am," I admitted genuinely. "And it's not fleeting. I feel like I've been given a second chance at life, and at being myself." Dinner passed in a blur of laughter, conversation, and subtle glances that hinted at possibilities neither of us dared speak aloud. For the first time in years, I felt seen. Not as someone defined by a failing marriage, but as someone capable of joy, passion, and connection. If this part of Ethan's journey resonates with you, leave a like to show support. Sometimes, validation is all we need to feel confident in moving forward. Later that night, I drove home with a quiet sense of satisfaction. The city lights reflected off the windshield, and I realized something profound. Happiness doesn't come from revenge, spite, or proving someone wrong. It comes from reclaiming your time, your energy, and your sense of self. And in that moment, I knew I had done exactly that. A few days later, Sarah tried to reach out. First a text, then a call. I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I allowed the silence to settle in. The same silence I had longed for when our home had been filled with tension. When I finally responded, it was with the calmest clarity I could muster. "I'm moving forward. You're welcome to do the same, but I won't be part of it." She didn't argue. She didn't yell. Just the faintest sigh of resignation that she hadn't controlled the narrative, hadn't dictated the terms of my happiness. And I smiled, because I realized this wasn't about her. Not anymore. It was about me. Like this story, if Ethan's journey inspired you, Comment below with your thoughts on reclaiming happiness after loss, and don't forget to subscribe. There are more stories here about courage, empowerment, and moving on. That weekend, Mia and I met again, this time for a casual hike. The forest air was crisp, birds chirped overhead, and sunlight filtered through the leaves in patches of gold. We walked side by side, sharing stories, laughing, and occasionally just enjoying the silence together. It was effortless, unforced, and entirely ours. For the first time in a long time, I realized that life after a marriage isn't just survival. It's a chance to truly live. The past doesn't vanish, nor should it. But the future, that belongs to us, to those bold enough to step forward, unburdened by resentment or fear. As I headed home that evening, I felt a lightness I hadn't known since my 20s. The phone buzzed. Another text from Sarah, trying again. I ignored it, not out of spite, but because it no longer mattered. The chain had been broken, and I was free to create my own story. A story full of laughter, connection, and possibility. And as I opened my apartment door, I realized that this happiness, the kind that comes quietly without drama or applause, was the most satisfying kind of all.